Render unto Caesar. You've probably heard that phrase 1,000 times. For centuries, it's been the go-to line for drawing a neat boundary between God and government, church and state. But what if that whole understanding is based on a profound misreading? What if this seemingly simple instruction about paying your taxes is actually one of the most radical and subversive statements about where our ultimate allegiance truly lies? Well, today, we're going to peel back the layers of history, theology, and rhetoric to uncover the far more challenging question buried inside this ancient text.
And here it is, the line from the Gospel of Matthew that has echoed through millennia of debate. On the surface, it seems to suggest a pretty tidy division of our loyalties, right? But as we're about to discover, the absolute genius of this statement isn't in what it separates, but in what it claims entirely.
So, here's our roadmap. First, we'll tackle the common misinterpretation of this phrase. Then, we'll explore the historical trap it was designed to be. After that, we'll analyze the little coin at the center of the story, understand Jesus' brilliant reversal, and finally, get to the real heart of the matter, a question of ultimate worship.
All right, so let's just dive right in by dismantling the popular view. I think most of us have been taught to see this passage as a kind of lesson in civic duty, the separation of church and state. It's often used to argue that Christians should just be good citizens, pay their taxes, and keep their religion a private affair. But this interpretation, well, it fundamentally misses the entire point.
According to John Gleason of Mind Renewers, turning this into a proof text for church-state separation does a disservice to the central message of Christ's response. He doesn't mince words. He says that interpretation pretty much slaughters the text because it reduces it to this simple, neat division of duties. The real focus here isn't on creating two separate equal kingdoms. It's about identifying the one true kingdom to which we owe absolutely everything.
Now, to really understand the depth of Jesus' reply, we have to understand the sheer danger of the question he was asked. This wasn't some friendly philosophical debate. No, this was a public trap, and it was set in a politically and religiously explosive environment. It was a powder keg waiting for a spark.
Let's set the scene. It's first-century Judea, a land crushed under Roman occupation. Jeff Barr of the Mises Institute details how the air was just thick with resentment. A Roman census tax had sparked a huge, violent revolt, led by Judas the Galilean, who taught that, and I'm quoting here, taxation was no better than an introduction to slavery. That rebellious spirit had been simmering for decades, and this whole encounter takes place in Jerusalem during Passover, a festival celebrating liberation from slavery. The city is packed with pilgrims and Roman soldiers, all under the thumb of the notoriously cruel governor, Pontius Pilate. Barr calls the city a hotbed of political and religious fervor. This is the tinderbox into which this question gets thrown.
And who's throwing it? A very strange alliance of Pharisees, these are the religious purists who hated Rome, and the Herodians, the political insiders who collaborated with Rome. Their one shared goal? To get rid of Jesus. So they come up to him with all this fake flattery before they spring what Jeff Barr calls their malevolently brilliant question. Is it lawful to give tribute to Caesar or not? They're asking if paying the Roman tax is permissible under God's law.
You see, the question was designed to be a perfect, inescapable trap. If Jesus says, yes, it is lawful to pay the tax, he immediately becomes a traitor in the eyes of his people, a collaborator with their pagan occupiers. But if he says, no, do not pay the tax, he can be arrested on the spot and executed for sedition. They really believe they have him cornered. There's just no way out.
But Jesus doesn't answer their question, at least not directly. Instead, he does something absolutely brilliant. He shifts the entire frame of the debate by focusing on one single piece of evidence. He turns their attention away from the abstract political question and right onto the very concrete, physical object at the heart of the whole thing, the coin itself.
His request, "Show me the tribute money," is a masterful move. As Jeff Barr points out, that he requests to see the coin suggests that there is something meaningful about the coin itself. And think about this. It's also pretty significant that Jesus, the one they're testing, doesn't even have one of these coins. But his accusers, standing right there in the sacred space of the temple, they immediately produce one. And in doing so, they reveal their own hypocrisy and how entangled they are with the very Roman system they claim to despise.
So what was the big deal about this coin? Well, it was a Roman denarius, minted under Emperor Tiberius. On the front, you'd see the image of Tiberius wearing a laurel crown. And the inscription, according to both Jeff Barr and Jonathan Master, read something like Tiberius Caesar, worshipful son of the god Augustus. On the back, it often called him Pontifex Maximus, which means high priest. So you see, this wasn't just money, it was a portable piece of imperial propaganda. It was a claim to divinity.
For a devout Jew, as Jonathan Master notes, this was quite literally a blasphemous idol.
This quote, which Jeff Barr cites from the work of J. Spencer Kennard, just captures it perfectly. The coin was the #1 tool for spreading the cult of emperor worship. So, by carrying this coin into the temple, Jesus' accusers were the ones actually committing blasphemy. They brought an idol into God's house, and Jesus was about to use their own idolatry against them.
So, now that he's established the idolatrous nature of this coin, Jesus executes this absolutely stunning rhetorical reversal. He takes their focus on the image stamped on that little piece of silver, and he turns it right back on them, forcing them to confront a much, much deeper question about the image stamped on their very souls. He asks them, whose is this image and superscription? According to Jeff Barr's analysis, these words are just loaded with meaning. For a Jewish audience, the word image would immediately bring to mind the commandment against worshiping graven images or idols. And the word inscription would recall their central prayer, the Shema, which declares that the Lord alone is God and was supposed to be inscribed on their hearts. You see? He's not talking about politics anymore. He's talking about idolatry.
And this is the central argument in a nutshell. As John Gleason from Mind Renewers explains it, Jesus sets up this powerful, undeniable parallel. The logic is just devastatingly simple. The coin has Caesar's image and his name on it, so it belongs to him. Fine, give it back to him. But then comes the unspoken, implicit question that hangs in the air. You, a human being, you bear God's image, as it says in Genesis. So, to whom do you belong?
This quote from John Gleason just drives the point home perfectly. The things that are God's, that isn't some checklist of religious duties you do for an hour on Sunday. No, it's your entire existence, your allegiance, your love, your mind, your life, everything. Because you are stamped with His image, you belong wholly and completely to Him. It is a debt of your entire being that must be rendered.
And that brings us to the ultimate conclusion of this whole re-examination. Jesus' response is not some formula for neatly dividing our lives between two masters. It is a radical, unwavering call to choose the one true master to whom we owe total, undivided devotion.
When you're holding that idolatrous coin in your hand, the choice becomes crystal clear. The Caesar on that coin claims to be the son of a god and a high priest. But God, through the scriptures Jesus is invoking, claims exclusive worship. As Jeff Barr argues, Jesus skillfully points out that the claims of God and Caesar are mutually exclusive. You can't serve them both. You absolutely must choose whom you will worship.
This quote from Jeff Barr really lays out the stunning, radical implication of Jesus' argument. If God's claim on you is total because you bear His image, then Caesar's divine claims are just a fraud. And in that light, the passage completely transforms from a simple command to pay taxes into what Barr calls subtle sedition. It subtly but totally delegitimizes the ultimate authority of any earthly ruler who dares to set himself up as a god.
And let's not forget that key verb, render. It doesn't just mean to give, it means to pay back what is owed, to settle a debt. The coin is a debt you owe to Caesar because it carries his idolatrous image. But your very life, that is the debt owed to God because you carry His.
So in the end, the Pharisees and Herodians came to Jesus with what they thought was a clever financial and political question. But through His masterful response, Jesus revealed it was never, ever about taxes. It was, and it always has been, a question about worship. It is a direct challenge to abandon all forms of idolatry, whether it's the worship of a Roman emperor or the worship of the state itself, and to render our entire selves back to God.
And so, the question that was designed as a trap 2,000 years ago is turned right back on us today. Jesus' counter-question echoes through the centuries, and it demands an answer from every single one of us. The coin belongs to Caesar because it bears his image. Whose image do you bear?